A force of nature none could reckon with. COVID-19 has claimed the lives of 5,001 people in Wales. Mothers, brothers, daughters or husbands, all of them were loved. John was 54 when he died last April. His wife Jane cherishes each moment they spent together.
John and I met 30-something years ago, so he's been part of my life for longer than I've been on my own. He was the first of everything for me, first real boyfriend ever. I was very, very lucky to have him for the time that I did.
This photo was taken just a month before John died, when COVID still seemed like a distant threat.
It started sort of going out together. We had started sort of that phase of our lives. You know, we were planning for when John would retire, but, you know, we never got there.
Abbott's son Hamza remembers those happy times too. His dad loved celebrating his son's achievements.
He was so proud, you know, he rarely gets a chance to get his suit out, and he loved his brown tan leather shoes. And, you know, that day was just special. And I remember coming off the stage and him giving me a massive high five and saying, you know, well done, son.
Abbott's friends knew him as Big Sam and someone they could always count on.
It was always like, let's call Sam, let's get to him, because he'll know the answer to everything. He always wanted to help everyone out, and, you know, he was known as a person in the community that, you know, even if he had his last penny in his pocket, you know that he would give it to someone. He'd always put you before everyone else.
Dennis had been an air cadet and a HGV driver, but his proudest achievement, being a dad.
If there's one thing I can do to make my dad happy, is to walk me down the aisle. And he did. And his words to me was the morning of the wedding, don't forget now, you don't have to do this if you don't want to.
As a child, Mandy remembers Dennis working away for days at a time, but when he was home, he never left her side.
He followed me around mostly. He would go to different parts of just to cheer me on, and then at the finish line, he supported me in lots of things. He was a nice man. He was very, very much missed.
Kelvin was 67 when he died. A year his junior, he was his brother Brian's role model.
School, fighting, you name it, we done it. But I never ever planned or even thought he'd ever go before me.
A few years ago, Kelvin went through cancer. He was getting back on his feet when COVID hit.
He'd beaten leukemia. He was in remission, and he always promised his granddaughter that he would be the first person to take her to the beach. So he came out to chemo, he felt sick, he felt really rough, but true to his word, down to the beach he took her.
Old and young, COVID has touched us all. But when it claimed the life of 25-year-old Lauren Jones, her mum and dad lost their only daughter.
She was my best friend, as she was with my wife, but it's, you know, that father-daughter sort of bond you get as well. Do you know what, right? She was the nicest, kindest person you'd ever wish to meet. She genuinely had a heart of gold.
Paul still can't believe someone so full of life is gone, and the cruel irony that Lauren just missed her chance to avoid the disease completely.
The week that Lauren tested positive for COVID, because she's obviously an NHS worker, her and my wife, Karen, were supposed to have the vaccines that week.
COVID may be how Lauren died, but like all those who lost loved ones, Paul will remember his daughter for how she lived. Vaccines are our chance to turn the tide on this disease, a ray of hope after a dark year. Charanpreet Khaira, ITV News.